Hello everyone, this is Rick. Welcome to an episode where we will discuss about the first part of the Delhi Sultanate. That is the dynasty that ruled the Delhi Sultanate for about 80 years, the Mamluks. Here we will see how Qutbuddin Aibak established the Delhi Sultanate. However, how Iltutmish was the real founder and how the throne went on to the first Muslim female ruler, that is Razia Sultana, and we will also see how it ended with Ghiyasuddin Balban. So this dynasty is also called the slave dynasty because the inheritance went to the slaves of the previous emperor. So please carry a notebook with you so that you can note down the important points and also listen to this video carefully. The last part of this video contains the questions and their answers, which will help you to understand this topic in a much better way. So without doing any delay, let's start with the Mamluks. So dynasties that ruled Delhi Sultanate. What were the dynasties which had ruled the Delhi Sultanate? So Delhi Sultanate, the period between 1206 to 1526 CE is known as the period of Delhi Sultanate. Why was this period called Delhi Sultanate? Because the rulers were called sultans and they ruled from their capital city of Delhi. So because of these reasons, the time period from 1206 to 1526, for more than 300 years, this period was called the Delhi Sultanate. Basis of rule. The rule of Delhi Sultanate can be divided into five distinct periods based on dynastic rule. So there were five periods of Delhi Sultanate. Five dynasties ruled over northern part of India for a period of more than 300 years. What were those five dynasties? Here is a list. So slave or Mamluk dynasty was the first ruling dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate. They ruled from 1206 to 1290. Then came the Khalji dynasty, succeeded the Mamluks with powerful military rulers. Khalji dynasty was after the Mamluks and they were militarily very much powerful. Next came the Tughlaq dynasty, who ruled from 1320 to 1414, and they were notable for their ambitious projects and rapid expansion. Next came the Shayyad dynasty. They ruled for considerably smaller period of time and they were relatively weaker compared to the other dynasties. After that came the Lodhi dynasty, the last dynasty of the Delhi Sultanate before the Mughal conquest. So Lodhi was the last dynasty. After that came the Mughals. So slave or Mamluk dynasty. How was the Mamluk dynasty and why is it called the slave dynasty? So after Muhammad Ghori's death, in 1206 CE, Qutbuddin Aibak led the foundation of slave or Mamluk dynasty. So Qutbuddin Aibak was the viceroy of Muhammad of Ghori. So after the death of Muhammad of Ghori in 1206, Qutbuddin Aibak declared himself independent and led the foundation for the slave dynasty. Now, what is the meaning of Mamluk? Why is slave dynasty also called Mamluk dynasty? Slave dynasty is called Mamluk dynasty because the word Mamluk literally means slave. So they ruled the continent for over 84 years. Qutbuddin Aibak was regarded as the founder of Delhi Sultanate because it was from his time that independent Islamic rule in India began, and that began from 1206 CE. The slave dynasty ruled from 1206 to 1290 CE. So for about 84 years, the slave dynasty ruled over northern part of Indian subcontinent. It marked the beginning of Muslim rule in India under independent sultans, not under foreign rulers. So, for the first time, the Muslims of India who are independent of foreign influence. The people, they came from outside definitely, but they stayed in India, and for the first time Qutbuddin Aibak was a ruler who was independent of foreign influence. So this was the beginning of Muslim rule in India. The capital and administrative base remained in Delhi throughout. So the capital and administration was totally from Delhi. The Mamluk rulers were known for building monuments and encouraging Persian culture. So these Mamluk people built monuments and also encouraged Persian culture. Now we will discuss about Qutbuddin Aibak, who ruled only for 4 years, that is from 1206 to 1210 CE. So he was the founder of Delhi Sultanate and ruled for 4 years. He was a just and generous ruler who looked after the welfare of his subjects. So according to what historical evidence is available, he was a just and generous ruler. But it is also to be noted that historical evidence of the period are mainly the sources which were sponsored by Qutbuddin Aibak. So it may not always be true. So he died in 1210 in an accident while playing Chaugan, which is also called polo. So in 1210 he died in an accident. So he did not have time to organize his kingdom and establish a sound system of administration. So he could just conquer a few territories, and before he could organize his administration properly, he was dead in an accident. He built the Quat ul Islam mosque in Delhi, and also he built a mosque in Ajmer called the Adhai Din Ka Jhopra. Qutub Minar construction is one of his notable achievements. Many people think that Qutub Minar was built by Qutbuddin Aibak in his own name, but it was actually dedicated to a Sufi saint called Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki, which was completed by Iltutmish. So Qutbuddin Aibak started the construction, however, it was completed by Iltutmish. So he was also called Lakh Baksh, means giver of lakhs, due to his generosity. Iltutmish. The next important ruler was Iltutmish, and he ruled considerably for about 26 years, that is from 1210 to 1236 CE. So he was the successor of Qutbuddin Aibak, and he was not the direct successor. At first, the son of Qutbuddin Aibak was his successor, but he was replaced by Shamsuddin Iltutmish. So Iltutmish was a slave of Aibak, and later he married the daughter of Iltutmish and became his son-in-law. Historians regard him as the real founder of Delhi Sultanate. Why? Because he consolidated his possessions and stabilized his position. So Qutbuddin Aibak did not have the time to organize his empire. It was Iltutmish who for the first time consolidated the position of Sultan in the empire. He transformed a loosely knit Ghori territories in India into a strong, well-defined, compact state. So Ghori and Qutbuddin Aibak had conquered many territories, but they were not organized properly under a common administration. That was done by Iltutmish. He faced many problems during early part of his reign. So for the beginning part of his reign, he faced many problems. He played a pivotal role in shaping the Delhi Sultanate into a centralized monarchy. So the whole thing about Delhi Sultans become a monarchical order was because of Iltutmish. He ruled for 25 years and established Delhi as a powerful center. So how did Iltutmish consolidate his power? So facing resentment from some nobles, he appointed a group of 40 trusted nobles known as the Chalisa to help suppress his enemies. So what was the duty of Chalisa? They would be loyal to Iltutmish and they would suppress the enemies of the Sultan, that is Iltutmish. So Caliph's approval. He secured approval of the Caliph of Baghdad for his ascension, gaining Muslim support and legitimacy. So he secured an authorization from the head of Islam all over the world, that is the Caliph of Baghdad. So he became the legitimate ruler of Indian subcontinent. Nasiruddin Quabacha extended authority up to Lahore but was defeated and annexed by Iltutmish. So this was a person who reached up to Lahore and was challenging for Iltutmish, but Iltutmish defeated him and annexed his territories. The governor of Bengal revolted after Aibak's death but was defeated by Iltutmish. So he quenched Bengal revolt also, where the governor revolted. He conquered Ujjain, Ranthambore, Gwalior and Malwa, gaining control over North India. So all these territories were conquered newly by Iltutmish. He bought the whole of North India up to the river Narmada under his control. So up to river Narmada, that is the central portion of India, up to the central portion of India from north to center, everything was under the control of Iltutmish. He made Delhi his capital after suppressing challenges to the throne. He saved his empire from Genghis Khan by diplomatically refusing to shelter the Shah of Persia. So Genghis Khan was the Mongol ruler who was very powerful and also ruthless. So this Shah of Persia was an enemy of Genghis Khan. He asked this enemy of Genghis Khan asked Iltutmish for help and for shelter, but Iltutmish refused shelter to the enemy of Genghis Khan and thus got himself away from the wrath of the Mongol emperor. Iltutmish reorganization of empire. How did Iltutmish reorganize his empire? So there were financial reforms. He organized the finance and revenue system of his empire. So revenue system means how to extract tax from the people in a humane and proper manner. So that was organized by Iltutmish. He divided the empire into several provinces called iktas, each administered by an iktadar. So his provinces were broken, his empire was broken into several provinces for administrative purposes, and each province was called ikta. The head of ikta was an iktadar. So what was the role of iktadar? Iktadar would collect revenue and maintain law and order. So Iqtadar was to collect tax and manage the entire Iqta. Iltutmish was the first to mint gold and silver coins. Now, many people think whenever you are reading this sentence, you may think that he was the first to make gold coins in India. No, he was not the first to make gold or silver coins in India, but he was the first to make gold and silver coins with the technology of minting. Before also there were coins for thousands of years. India had gold and silver coins, but they were not made using minting technology. So he patronized art and learning, and all the learned scholars who faced any problem around the world, who were driven into exile, means who were made as outcast of the society from various parts of Asia, they came to Iltutmish and found refuge in his court. He completed the construction of Qutub Minar started by Qutbuddin Aibak. So the Qutub Minar, which was started by Qutbuddin Aibak, was completed by Iltutmish. He built his own tomb in red sandstone in Delhi. So he also made a place for his own death. So he built a tomb where he instructed his followers that he would be buried after he died. Then came Razia Sultana, 1236 to 1239 CE, for 3 or 3.5 years. So Razia Sultan Razia was the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. She was the first and only Muslim woman to rule India. So she was the first Muslim woman to rule India, and till now, means till the time of kings and queens, she has been the only Muslim Sultan to rule India who was a woman. Razia was brave, intelligent, and just ruler. She possessed the qualities of a great monarch. So she was like a perfect ruler, and she was brave, intelligent, and very justified in all her actions. Sultan Iltutmish had nominated his daughter Razia as the next sultan, as she was more able and qualified than any of his sons. So Sultan Iltutmish himself nominated Razia to be the next sultan because all his sons were actually worthless. So, rejection by nobles. The nobles did not like the idea of being ruled by a woman. So, this is a conservative idea of the nobles because they did not like to be ruled by a woman. So, they made Ruknuddin Firoz Shah their ruler. So, Ruknuddin Firoz Shah was made a ruler by the nobles who did not like to be governed under Razia Sultana. So Ruknuddin was seeking and worthless. He was deposed after 7 months and Razia was made the Sultan. So Ruknuddin was a worthless and useless fellow, so there was no other option but to depose him only after 7 months of rule, and Razia Sultana was made the next important ruler. So she wore a man's tunic and headdress and led the army in battle. The welfare of her subjects became her primary duty. So she was not just sitting on the throne and governing over people. She used to dress up as a man and lead army in battle. So she had a fighting ability, and the welfare of her subjects was her only goal. She defeated many revolts by the nobles. So, one by one, she defeated all the nobles who revolted against her. But when the governor of Vatinda revolted, she defeated him but later was imprisoned. So, she had to face a lot of hardships, even though being one of the best sultans of Delhi Sultanate, she had to face a lot of hardship because she was a woman. And eventually, she was defeated and imprisoned. So later she was killed after the revolt despite her efforts to regain power. So she died an unexpected death from the people whom she loved. So Nasiruddin Muhammad came after Razia Sultana. So political instability. The death of Razia was followed by 6 years of political uncertainty. So for 6 years there was no proper ruler. All the nobles made Nasiruddin Muhammad the youngest son of Iltutmish, the Sultan of Delhi Sultanate. So the youngest son of Iltutmish was made the Sultan. He was a virtuous person but weak and inexperienced. So he was a very talented person, but as an administrator he was very weak and inexperienced. Due to his incompetence, the Turkish noble Balban became very powerful and began to manage the affairs of the state. So this ruler was very weak, and so all the affairs of the state was basically being controlled by a Turkish noble called Balban. During this period, Balban gradually consolidated his power and rose to prominence. So Nasiruddin Muhammad is only important because it was during his time Balban became powerful. So Nasiruddin Muhammad ruled till 1266 CE, and his reign marked the increasing dominance of Balban. So now we will go towards the details of Ghiyasuddin Balban and consolidation. Who was Balban and how did he organize his empire? So rulers for 20 years. After the death of Nasiruddin Muhammad, Ghiyasuddin Balban acquired the throne in 1266 CE and ruled for more than 20 years. So he ruled for more than 20 years. To restore the prestige of the crown, he adopted a policy of blood and iron. Means he was very strict and stern in his policy, and that led him to restore the prestige of the crown. Balban mercilessly suppressed the revolts of ambitious Turkish nobles and transferred them far from Delhi. So all the Turkish nobles in the court of Delhi Sultan were transferred far away from the court and to faraway places, and thus he curved or diminished the power of the nobles. He constantly tried to increase the prestige and power of the monarchy to face internal and external threats. So, to increase the power of the monarchy was his primary target. He reorganized the army, strengthened both infantry and cavalry, and created an elaborate spy system. So, creation of a very effective spy system and a powerful army were the chief achievements of Ghiyasuddin Balban. So he strengthened defenses in the northwest by reinforcing the forts at Vatinda, Sunam, and Samana. Why? Because these forts were at the border of India, and in case of a Mongol attack, these forts would function as proper defense strategies. So Vatinda, Sunam, and Samana were reinforced and built properly. Despite having a huge army, Balban never left Delhi due to fear of Mongol invasion. So he was very scared of the Mongols, and Mongols were the most powerful people in the world at that time. So he was very scared of the Mongols, and thus he never left Delhi. He appointed his own sons as governors of the frontier provinces. New forts were built and old ones were repaired. The army was always kept at a state of readiness. So he was always battle ready to face any kind of threat to his empire. Increasing the prestige of monarchy. How did Balwan increase the prestige of the monarchy? The power of the king. So, divine kingship. Balwan believed in the theory of divine kingship, where the king was regarded as representative of God on earth. So, king was believed to be the representative of God on earth, and that was the theory promoted by Balwan. He destroyed the powerful group of 40 nobles who had began to challenge the sultan's authority. So there were 40 nobles, the Chalisa. It was established by Iltutmish, but later on the 40 nobles were getting too much of power. So Balban curved the power of the 40 nobles. He modeled his court after the court culture of Persia. So Persia was taken as a role model of governance, and so his court, Balban's court, was also modeled according to the court culture of Persia. Visitors to the court had to perform sajda, which means prostration before the sultan and then kiss his feet. So these were exemplary practices which was to promote his motive of being a god on earth. So Balban remained richly attired, never smiled nor allowed jokes or laughter in his court. So he brought the element of seriousness and strictness and discipline in his court. And so he never smiled or allowed jokes. He gave the Sultan of Delhi a near divine stature. So Sultan of Delhi was to be treated like a god according to Balwan. Death and succession. Balwan died in 1306 CE. His successors were very weak. He had nominated Kai Khusro, the son of his eldest son Muhammad, but nobles replaced Kaikubad, the son of Bugra Khan, on the throne. So he nominated his grandson to be the ruler, but nobles made Kaikubad, the son of Bugra Khan, on the throne or as the emperor. So that was the end of Balban's lineage. So more than 2 years of intrigue, Jalaluddin Khilji, a powerful noble, captured the throne, and thus we get the foundation of the Khilji dynasty, who were second rulers of the Delhi Sultanate. Now we will go through the questions and answers which will help you to understand this chapter in a much better way. So please go through all the answers properly. Why is the period between 1206 to 1526 CE known as the period of Delhi Sultanate? The period between 1206 and 1526 CE is known as the period of the Delhi Sultanate because the rulers were known as sultans and they ruled from their capital city, Delhi. What are the sources of information on Delhi Sultanate? The sources of information on the Delhi Sultanate include historical chronicles by court writers like Ziauddin Barani and Mihnaj as-Siraj, inscriptions, coins, monuments, and accounts of foreign travelers like Ibn Battuta, who laid the foundation of the Mamluk dynasty. Qutbuddin Aibak led the foundation of the slave or Mamluk dynasty after Ghori's death in 1206 CE. He ruled for 4 years and is remembered as a just and generous ruler who looked after the welfare of his subjects. Who is regarded as the real founder of the Delhi Sultanate? Why? Shamsuddin Iltutmish is regarded by historians as the real founder of the Delhi Sultanate. He first consolidated his possessions and stabilized his position. He transformed the loosely knit Ghori territories in India into a strong, well defined, compact state. How did Iltutmish tackle the Mongol threat? The Mongol danger appeared when Genghis Khan had reached up to the borders of Delhi Sultanate in pursuit of the Shah of Persia. However, Iltutmish refused politely to give shelter to the Shah and saved India from a possible Mongol attack. What did Iltutmish do to reorganize his empire? Iltutmish reorganized the finance and revenue of his empire. He divided his empire into several provinces called iktas. Each ikta was administered by an officer or noble called iktadar, who collected revenue and maintained law and order. He was the first to mint gold and silver coins. He also patronized art and learning, and scholars from different parts of Asia found refuge in his court. Why did Iltutmish nominate his daughter Razia as his successor? Iltutmish nominated his daughter Razia as his successor because she was much more able and qualified than any of his sons. She was a brave, intelligent, and a just ruler who possessed the qualities of a great monarch. How did Balban restore the security and stability in his kingdom? Balban restored the prestige of the crown by adopting a policy of blood and iron. He suppressed the revolts of the ambitious Turkish nobles and transferred them to far off frontiers. He reorganized the army, strengthened both infantry and cavalry, and created an elaborated spy system. He also reinforced forts in the northwest and ensured that the army was always in a state of readiness. What did Balban do to increase the prestige of monarchy? Balban took several measures to increase the prestige of monarchy. He believed in the theory of divine kingship. He destroyed the group of 40 nobles, modeled his court after Persian culture, and introduced sajda and pybos in the court. He remained richly attired never smiled or allowed jokes in his court, thus providing the Sultan with a near divine stature. So that was all about the Mamluk dynasty. This was the first part of the series on Delhi Sultanate. Even though these videos are catered according to the syllabus of class 7 of ICSE board, as you have seen, you can go through this video, especially if you are interested in participating in competitive exams where history will be important. So thank you for your love and support.